Konnichiwa, Ian des. Let's learn some English. Today we're looking at things you can find in the city. So, do you live in a city? Most of you probably do. So let's look at some things around that you might see. First, being apartments. This is an apartment building, and that's where you live. Lots of people live in the one building. Do you live in an apartment? If you don't live in an apartment, you probably live in a house. Houses are a bit bigger, a bit more space, but more expensive. If you live in a big city, there's not many houses, it's usually apartments. And big cities have an airport. That's an airplane, but that's inside the airport. So how do you get to Tokyo? You fly to the airport. One day I will do that. I will go to the airport and I'll be in the city. Cities also have train stations. So there's the train, there's the station. That's a mountain. That's what a lot of English train stations look like. You'll also find bus stops where the bus comes and you can get on. You say stop and it gets on. Quite all the time it's a little shelter like this so you don't get the rain on top of you. So the bus stop. Buses all go to the bus station. It's kind of like a train station, but it's buses. Sometimes it's both. The bus station and train station is the same. That's near my house, it's like that. So you get off the train, get on a bus. Every city is going to have restaurants where you can buy food to eat. You go in, you sit down, and you get food. Do you go to restaurants? What type of food do you like to order? Let me know. You might also find a cafe. A cafe is a type of restaurant. I would say a restaurant is where you go for your dinner. And a cafe is more breakfast or lunch. Usually the menu's a bit smaller or simpler. But they're both good and they're both type of restaurants. Cafe is a lot cheaper, so that's good. You're also going to find shops in a city. Every area will have different types of shops. What shops are in your area? I probably will make a whole video on shops. There's so many different types. But we'll have a quick look at one or two. So the shop where you buy bread, cakes, it's called a bakery. Look at that. Delicious. So you go to the bakery because they bake the bread in the bakery. If you want to buy some meat, you go see a butcher. He'll get you the beef, the chicken, all the meat. Butcher. If you want to go to a fish shop, it's called a fishmonger's. I think that's an old English word, maybe, monger. We can see this says fish shop, so you could just call it that. But you got your butcher for your meat, fishmongers for your fish, bakery for your bread. And then you might want to go to the cinema to watch a movie, watch some anime. The Americans call that a theatre, or we here would call it a cinema. It's the same thing, you go and watch movies. But some of you have to go to work, and that means going to the office. There's usually office buildings, just full of rooms like this with computers and chairs and salary men, all doing your work. There we go. Busy office. Cities are going to also have mechanics, where you take the car and they fix it. So this car shop, the Americans call it the car shop, but we would call it a mechanic or a garage. You go here and get your car fixed. I think you can just say cities have lots of buildings. These are very tall buildings, skyscrapers. So there's New York, just buildings everywhere. I think Tokyo's the same, just buildings everywhere. So apartments, office, shops, bakeries, everything. Probably a cinema in there as well. But also, there will be a park where you can sit on the grass and relax. There might be some ponds, might be some play parks. Really, there'll just be a nice bit of nature in the middle of the city. There'll be some trees, there'll be some grass, usually a lot of trees. There'll be a pond, which is just water. Sometimes it might be a river, but a lot of the times it's a little pond in the park. You can sit there and relax. Usually you don't swim in these, it's just for the animals. If you want to swim, you have to go to the swimming pool. So every city will have a swimming pool and you can go for a swim. Now if you live in a city, it might be the capital city, which means the number one. So London is the capital of England. Tokyo is the capital of Japan. Do you know the capital of Paris? What's the capital city? I've said the answer, haven't I? Ugh. What's the capital city of France? The answer is Paris. What's the capital city of Russia? Moscow. So that's the main number one city. But you might live in a normal city. Maybe you live in a town which is smaller. And if it gets even smaller, it's a village. And if you're the only house and there's nobody around you, you probably live in the countryside. But we're talking about the city today. And every city is full of streets. These are the buildings. This here is a street. There's also a street. Here's an American street. So you got the road, you got the footpath, you got everyone walking around. This is more just a road, because there's nothing else there. It's just countryside and road. But when you go into a city and there's people walking and buildings and footpaths, crossings, we call it a street. It's also going to be gyms where you can go and exercise. People in the city like to go and exercise. So this man is on a treadmill, running. It's too busy outside to run, so they do it inside. There's also libraries full of books. They're now full of computers and things like that, but you can go to the library and borrow a book. There's also lots of security in the city. You You're going to get cameras, security cameras watching you. I don't like it, but they're there to keep us safe, catch the bad guys, make sure you're not doing anything wrong. Cities will also have a bench, so you can walk around and have a seat. You can just relax. Man walking past a bench. These are in the parks as well. It's nicer in the parks, but you might just find one on the street. There's also usually a clock, so you can see what time it is. Some of them are just like this. Some of them are like Big Ben, very famous. Is there any famous clocks in Tokyo? I think there's one I can think of. So how many of you know this clock? At the Seiko shop. Is there any other? Maybe there's one at Tokyo Station. I don't know, but definitely I know this one. And in the UK, there's lots of churches. They're everywhere. Every street seems to have one. I don't think you'll find many in Japan, but we have lots. They're very nice. Some of them are quite old. Some of them are a bit more simple. That looks like a countryside church. Some of them are very big and fancy, like this one. Very nice. You'll also have a bank where you can go and deal with your money. So you can withdraw money or take your money out. And they're usually on the streets, different banks, cash machines and ATMs. They're just doing banking at the bank. And if you feel a bit sick, you can go to a pharmacy. Sometimes we call them chemists, but the technical term is a pharmacy. That's where you buy medicine, first aid. So in the city, you're also going to have convenience stores. You might just call it a shop. A lot of time we call it a corner shop because it's on the corner, but it's a convenience store. 7-Eleven. And a bigger version is the supermarket. So convenience is a small shop. Supermarket has everything. Although I think your convenience stores have pretty much everything, so might not be much difference. But here a supermarket is a lot bigger. You go there and buy all your food. Now if you want to buy a house in the city or an apartment, you go to an estate agent's. Estate means land and houses, and they're the agents who deal with it. So an estate agent, and you go there and say, please can I buy a house? And they take a lot of money from you. They gotta pay them to do that. But I guess you get a house. And they always put pictures in the window of what is for sale. So you can walk by and see everything for sale. Although it's all on the internet these days, but these types of shops do exist. As do second-hand shops. Sometimes these are for charity, sometimes not, but everything in it is second-hand. So it's been used before. Someone else used to own it and they've passed it on. So it's the second person owning it. You can go in here and find all sorts of things, and it's usually very cheap. You're also going to find the post office where you send letters. So if you want to send me a letter, you need to go to the post office. Don't send me a letter, just send me an email. It's a lot faster. There's a British post office. That's a post lady, I guess. We have these, a post box, where you post a letter and it gets sent away. The red post box. What colour are they in your area? You're going to also find a 100 yen store. We call them the £1 shop. The Americans call it the dollar store. It's all the same thing. It's cheap. 100 yen shop. You're going to find it in the city. Probably also going to find IKEA, where you buy furniture, buy your new bed, your sofa, your kitchen table. It's probably going to be from IKEA. And in the city, you're going to have to park your car. Now we would say car park, because it's where you park the car. Our American friends are going to say parking lot. It's the same thing, but park your car in the parking lot or the car park. But they're going to be in cities. And you're probably going to find most cities are near a river. I think that's from the olden days. They used to use the river for transport and even water, maybe drinking water and sewage. But here's London and the river Thames. There's the river in Chicago. Now, the big question. What's the river in Tokyo called? Because I can't remember. I've forgotten. So please tell me. Tell me what the river is called. And on the river, you're going to find bridges. So that's Tower Bridge, not London Bridge. London Bridge is next to this Tower Bridge in London. So every city has a river and a bridge, usually lots of bridges. Some cities have castles. I think this is more of a Japanese thing. Most British castles are slightly outside. Apart from Edinburgh. Edinburgh Castle is in the city. But castles are pretty cool from the olden times. Probably also going to have statues of old people to remind us of olden times. Here's probably one of the most famous statues, Statue of Liberty. You'll probably find statues of Buddha in Japan, am I right? You're also going to find monuments. Monuments are a little bit like statues, but a statue is a person, a monument is just a shape to remind you of something. So there's a monument in Washington. So the Statue of Liberty is a statue, but it's also a monument. This one here is a monument with a statue on top. And usually these are to remember. Lots of war monuments to say we remember the dead people from the war. And here's Stonehenge, a very old monument that we don't really know what it's about. It's very cool though. Speaking of the old, the dead, cities usually have a graveyard. It's not very nice, but it's what happens. So our ancestors are sleeping here. Sometimes they're in a church, in the garden of a church. Sometimes it's just a separate area. We're also going to have police stations in the city. Police stations aren't very exciting. They just look like buildings. This one's a bit more dramatic, but police stations, you need to know where they are. Same as a fire station. So if there's a fire, the fire engine will come. And then the third is a hospital. So your police stations, fire stations, and a hospital. And I was born in that hospital. It's very small. Some cities, especially Japanese ones, are going to have onsens, We haven't got those here, we've just got swimming pools. But your city might have an onsen. I'm very jealous. This one looks like it's next to a river and a forest, so it's probably a countryside onsen. This one's in the nature as well. But you do get them in the city. Do you have one in your city? And yes, schools. Most cities have a school where you go and learn. Not fun. Gotta go to school, and after school you can go to university and do more studying, get your degree. It's quite important. And after that you can go to the pub, buy a beer. So in England and the UK, lots of pubs. It's the same thing as a bar, but we just call it a pub. I guess there's little differences, but it's the same thing. You go there and you sit and drink beer. Old British pub. Very empty though. You ask for a beer and you relax. So that was some of the buildings in a city. Watch that a few times, try to remember them all. Next time you're out and about, look around, see if you can see all these different types of buildings. They're everywhere. And as always, go to the website. There's more lessons, more information, more videos. List of vocabulary is all there. Let's go and check it out. Arigato. Jamate.